Welcome to another exciting webinar from the team at LIVEWire. Today's LiveWire, the future of business messaging, why RCS, is going to be an interesting one. The idea of rich media isn't exactly brand new, but it is an emerging option here in the US, and it's piqued a lot of people's interests. So with me today is a very familiar face. If you've joined some of our previous LiveWires, the Director of Operations, Steve Starr. I'm going to move him in here real quick just so he can kind of say hello. Don't forget you're muted, Steve, if you want to talk. Steve has an extensive background within the communications industry and is our resident expert and insider knowledge on RCS, SMS, and MMS. Basically knows the whole alphabet. Before I turn it over to Steve, though, we are going to go over a few housekeeping items. I'm driving the train and hosting today, so bear with me. So before we get going, and my name is Chelsea. I didn't even introduce myself. If you are new here, my name is Chelsea Botchke. I am the product marketing manager here at LIVEWire. I am usually the host of our live wires, but you may have seen me in the community as well. So if you follow any of our Slack channels, our Reddit pages, anything like that, you may see my name pop up here and there. But during our hour together today, we are going to introduce you to Rich Communication Services, or RCS for short. This is going to cover what the features of RCS are, what's going to be available, why we're seeing the emergence happening now in the US, and how industries are going to be using and benefiting from the RCS features. Steve has a fun demo also to show you at the end, so bear with us as we go through a couple slides, and then we'll get to the fun stuff. And we know that we can't always answer every single question that you have during this time together, but we certainly will set you up for success. So if you do want to discuss anything in depth with our team, throw a message in the chat. We have our support staff here in the room. They're going to help monitor the chat. And we can always meet up with you afterwards. We'll connect and make sure that we answer any questions that are lingering. With RCS, because it's so new, there may be some questions we don't have the exact answers to right now, but as it kind of evolves over the next few months, we will get those answers to you.
RCS, new-ish, right? It was actually first introduced back in 2008 as a next generation form of messaging, and then adoption was slow. 2016, GSMA introduces the Universal Profile. This is a standard set of features that RCS will support. And then fast forward a few more years, 2019, Google embraces RCS and releases it on Android. The idea is to have a competitor to iMessage that was on Apple or is on Apple products. And then finally in 2024, Apple begins to roll out support for RCS with iOS 18. And then RCS business messages coming in 18.1. So some might be wondering, what exactly is it? RCS stands for Rich Communication Services. As we mentioned, is designed as next generation messaging protocol. RCS is a P2P service. It helps blend the division between the green and the blue bubbles you might see if you're an iPhone user. Reactions to messages actually work. No longer says, Steve liked whatever message. Users are able to get delivered and read receipts, also able to share higher quality images or videos. RCS A2P, which is called RBM or RCS business messaging, it has all the great advantages of RCS, but organizations are also able to utilize a branded sender. So end users are able to quickly recognize who they're receiving messages from and know they can trust the source. So RBM messages are always sent from branded senders, not a phone number. To make this happen, you must register an RCS agent. To become a verified sender, your agent must be approved by the aggregator you're working with, so LIVEWire, the mobile operators, as well as Google. During the registration process, you can submit various information about yourself. This includes your organization legal name, a DBA, description of your organization, your website, Also, the agent display name. This is what your end users will see. Also, two different logos, an icon size, and a banner or hero image, email and phone number. Doing all of this helps ensure that the end user can trust who they're receiving the messages from. So let's dive into what these new messaging features are all about. So I saw in the chat there was this question. So you might be wondering, how exactly does RCS differ from SMS and MMS? Why is it better? Well, both are able to send and receive text messages. They can also handle images and videos. However, these are limited to about 1.2 megabytes, depending on your provider, and they could end up compressed or lower quality if we're talking about SMS and MMS. Another similarity is delivery receipts. However, with SMS and MMS, these are often unreliable and not very consistent. With RCS, you'll see more consistency with receiving these. Some other advantages, which we'll go through more in depth in a minute, is the verified sender ID, longer character limit, HD images and videos, consistent delivery receipts, and even read receipts or typing indicators. Rich content includes file sharing, carousels, quick replies, and actions. So verified sender ID allows end users to easily see who a message is coming from and know they can trust the source. This is shown by the badge that appears. The exact placement of the badge will depend on device and OS version, but the badge will be there. You can also add a description of your organization, website, and contact information. As we discussed earlier, this is all submitted when you register your agent. If you wish to update this, you must resubmit your agent for approval. Rich content greatly expands on the capabilities of messaging. With some of these features, we will see some of these features in action a little later during the demo. Interactive buttons allow you to present quick replies or actions for your customers to select. This provides a better experience for your customers who can easily see how to best reply and gives you postback data that you can easily work with. You can send up to 11 quick replies or actions with each message, and they're limited to 25 characters per option. Location sharing allows your end users to share their location with you, or you can share your location with the end user so they can get directions to you. Easily create payment options to help simplify the payment process. File sharing is also expanded on. Previously on MMS, file sharing was greatly limited to a few file types and limited sizes, typically 1.2 megabytes, regardless of the type. Now you can easily send images up to 2 megabytes, videos up to 10 megabytes, or share files that are up to 100 megabytes. So if you need to share images and videos that are larger than those limits, you can easily use the file sharing feature. Character limits are also a lot larger. No more segmentation like SMS. With RCS, this is around 3,072 characters. I know some providers report unlimited characters. However, within Google specs, they do list 3,072 as a limit, and we've seen that in some internal testing as well. SMS and MMS do support delivery receipts. However, these are inconsistent. We don't always get them. And sometimes they report when the message is delivered to the end carrier. Other times they are when the handset receives them. No more having to rely on just the click-through rates of links for your stats. RCS solves the issue, which greatly helps you with your analytics. You can receive consistent delivery updates, as well as read receipts and even typing indicators. It should be noted that users can disable read receipts and typing indicators. However, it's reported that about 80% of users just leave these enabled anyways. So why are we seeing all this excitement right now? With iOS 18, Apple is supporting RCS, and in 18.1, RBM support is officially there with select providers. This will eventually be expanded to all providers. It does take about 6 months for new updates to be fully adopted. We also have to wait for mobile operators to support this as well. Right now, Verizon, some MVNOs have added support. I was hearing reports that T-Mobile was expected to do this by Q1. However, a coworker of mine was just sending Slack messages saying that their T-Mobile phone shows RBM support. So we need to take a look at that further and investigate it. That's kind of how quickly things are evolving with this in the US. AT&T is expected to add their support by Q1 or Q2. Also, right now, this is not fully in production in iOS. You will see some random bugs popping up that Apple's working on addressing. We're still in the early stages of its release. So you're probably wondering, if this is still an early release and adoption is low, what can you do right now? Well, you can prepare. To start, you can get your agents registered. We can help you with that. This takes about this takes a few weeks to go through the approval process. Remember, it has to go through the aggregator, Google, and the mobile operators. So it takes time for that to happen. We are preparing to launch an RCS upscale beta. Getting your agents registered will allow you to take advantage of that. This will automatically upgrade SMS to RCS messages when supported. This currently will only work with basic RCS messages, not rich. But users will be able to receive RCS as well as the branding information we previously discussed. But while we're waiting for full adoption of RBM with handsets and mobile operators, you should start planning how to best utilize it. You'll want to think about various things, such as how can I better interact with my customers through RCS? What type of messages do I want to have with our customers? What kind of experience do I want our customers to have with RCS? Or how do I want to better track the data I will be collecting from the additional delivery receipts? You can fill out our interest form and we'll keep you up to date with the advancements along the way.
All right, perfect. Businesses are quickly embracing RCS, especially because it's so popular overseas. But here in the US, we are seeing rapid adoption rates, very clear market growth, and an explosive rise in messaging volumes with those that are using it and adopting it. So businesses that are not going to be moving forward with RCS, they may be left behind. So it's extremely important to stay up to date with all of the requirements that are changing, all of the advancements. So definitely fill out that form that Steve mentioned. It is in the chat. That way we can keep you up to date on everything that we are getting as well. But let's dive in. So if you know me, I really love stats and metrics. So you're gonna get some numbers. But right now, the question may be like, why is RCS business messaging outperforming SMS? If SMS is what people know, if they don't know anything different, that's just what they know. So right now we're seeing much higher engagement. We're seeing added benefits, increased security, and better analytics. Nearly 80% of consumers find RCS appealing, and 74% say that it would make them more likely to engage and communicate with a brand. With SMS, you have very little or no interaction at all. RCS messaging sees much higher delivery rates and click-through rates. And with features like brand name with verified business checkmark that Steve mentioned earlier, you're gaining brand recognition immediately right off the bat. As far as security goes, because of the verified business process, users can rely on those messages that they're receiving to come from a legitimate business. So basically, you are reducing the amount of spam that is coming through that you can just ignore because it's not coming from a verified source. And as far as analytics go, SMS really lacks consistent delivery receipts and interaction. So Steve mentioned that earlier, where RCS is providing accurate delivery receipts, read receipts with open times and response confirmations. So there's a lot there. And one very interesting piece of data that I found when I was exploring the RCS rabbit hole is that shopping and retail apps were actually the 8th most popular type of app installed on a user's smartphone. So the top 5 are actually, and this may not be as surprising, but social networking, so Facebook, Snapchats, Instagrams, is number 1. Then you've got weather, navigation, games, and music streaming. So those are making up the top 5 downloaded apps. And this is a market of 18 to 64-year-olds. So in the US, smart device users spend almost half their time on their top app, which is social networking. The top 3 apps, so social networks, weather, and maps, actually take up 77% of their time altogether. And the top 10 downloaded apps for a smart device user is going to be those social networks. So we're talking Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, X, we'll call it. Those searches, so Google Maps, media, YouTube, Google Play, Pandora, and messaging platforms like Gmail. So if we're talking in certain industries like retail, specifically only accounts for 3%. And most of that percentage is actually hogged up by Amazon. So if you were just participating in the Cyber Mondays and the Black Fridays, most of you are probably on Amazon. But outside of Amazon, which apps are you actually using on a daily basis? And so you're probably wondering, why am I telling you all this stuff? What it tells us is that we should be jumping at the opportunity presented by RCS to reach customers via a channel that's already in really high use. So like our messaging apps that are already on our phones and that we're using automatically, we can use those versus taking the time and resources, developing our own apps and maintaining those apps and holding on to the burden of those. So it will cost you a lot less time and it will cost you a lot less money to take advantage of RCS's features. So our first main use case and what a lot of people will begin using it for is obviously marketing campaigns. RCS enables businesses to improve marketing campaign quality by using the interactive content sent directly to customers' messaging apps. Unlike SMS, which is limited to plain text, RCS supports images, GIFs, videos, call to action buttons, allowing you to create a more engaging campaign. This capability is ideal for industries, like I mentioned before, retail, hospitality, travel, so much more. We don't have time to go through all that. So 90% of rich media messages are opened within 15 minutes, and customers are engaging with RCS content for up to 45 seconds on average. RCS's rich cards, like in this example, have interactive buttons. Those empower customers to take immediate action. So whether they're making a purchase or signing up for discounts or connecting with customer support teams, the features are making it a lot more simple to respond and interact with their brands, leading to better results and better interaction and overall better numbers. So real quickly, they did several different case studies, and this was done worldwide. But what they found from some of these case studies, one marketing campaign boasted a click rate 7 times higher than their SMS campaign, which is crazy. And they found that people were 35 times more likely to actually read an RCS message than compared to an email. And business campaigns using RCS messaging have shown an impressive 80% conversion rate, indicating that its effectiveness in driving engagement and sales is real. And using all these channels to the best of your ability is going to be one way to increase that customer base, which is what really at the end of the day, most businesses are trying to do. One specific company saw an increase in their customer base by 123%. So those numbers are really just, unbelievable if we're looking at it from the business perspective. The next big thing outside of marketing campaigns, obviously, is customer service. This is huge for most consumers. And so if you can win them over with customer service, you're already leaps and bounds ahead of most companies. So for industries like telecommunication, financial services, and e-commerce, RCS allows businesses to enrich customer support interactions with things like video tutorials, clickable buttons, location-based data, all for quicker issue resolution. Integrating RCS into communication infrastructures can reduce call volumes, wait times. It will streamline your overall customer support efforts. And again, at the end of the day, it's going to increase the overall satisfaction of your customers. So again, numbers, because I love to throw some numbers at you. 87% of customers actively avoid buying from brands that they don't trust. And 71% said that they would completely stop buying from a company altogether if their trust was broken. So 75% of customers expect businesses to use technologies to create a better experience. And 71% of customers expect a personalized interaction with the company that they're engaging with. So this is all emphasizing the importance of coming up with tailored communication and tailored experiences. All right, appointment reminders, appointments and reservations. Appointment reminders too. So appointment scheduling is another area where businesses are going to greatly benefit from RCS features. So things like healthcare, salons, automotive services, just for example, can send appointment reminders that allow customers to confirm, reschedule, and cancel directly from within the messaging app. So no longer are they clicking on a link and then redirecting into a browser or redirecting into another app. They're doing it all from within the messaging or the message itself. So if you need to reschedule or you want to confirm, you literally are just tapping a button. And this approach is reducing no-shows and enhancing, again, the customer experience. All right, we can also take the process further by providing options to send location details, parking instructions, and even forms. So if like it's a dental office and you have to confirm your appointment and update your insurance, click a button right from within the app and fill out your form. So file sharing is another big feature for RCS. All of these features are improving convenience and reducing no-shows and reducing the amount of administrative work on some of your team members. Okay. Account alerts and notifications. So critical time-sensitive notifications impact lives. So it's really important that if an alert goes out, it's received and action is taken within seconds. So things like banking. With verified senders profiles, customers will instantly recognize that this message is coming from my bank. They're going to be able to immediately see what the message content is. It's authentic and it's important. The trust factor will be there, which is crucial, and you'll convey the urgency of the information. So for customers without RCS enabled devices, which we've talked and some people have asked in the chat, obviously you have to, if you're Apple users, you have to go in and potentially turn that on. So for critical notifications, if somebody does not have that turned on, it will default and send as an SMS still. So it's not like the message isn't going to go out altogether. So this dual approach is going to ensure that every customer receives critical updates, regardless of the device or network capabilities. Whew, all right. Now I get to turn it back over to Steve. All right, Steve, take it away.
Thank you, Chelsea. Yeah, so what we're going to run through is just a few different types of RCS messages or RBM messages that we can expect to utilize once this gets fully going across all mobile operators. So on the left here, we have an iPhone, classic hello world examples going on in there. And then on the right is what I'm using to display the callbacks that we get from the device itself. So it's to show the real time of the messages going out and then what we see coming back from the device. So initially, we are going to just send a simple basic RCS message out. Didn't send. There we go. And so you'll see it come to the phone and stay there. And then you can see the read receipt. Delivery receipt might be, yeah, there we go. I was going to say it tends to lag if you have the device open. I've noticed this, where the delivered receipt actually comes after. Normal cases, the user won't be looking at it right when you do that. But if we type a reply message back, if Cat can do that, you can see the messages coming back with that. There we go. So here we see that the user's typing, and then we get the message coming back to us. So all those different receipts coming in there. So the next one that I'm going to send out is what's called a carousel. And in this instance, the user gets several options or messages that they can scroll through, or images they can scroll through. And you can see that they have titles, they have a description, and they also come with this quick reply link where maybe I'm presenting several different images just as examples, and I'm asking them to, hey, why don't you pick what your favorite one is, and they can easily click on it. In doing so, what happens is they click on it, we can see it in the message, and then coming back to us, we see that they chose, the white one with black background. Very quick and easy way to do that. So the next one that I want to show is maybe we have an appointment reminder that we want to send the user, and we're asking them to confirm, hey, you have an appointment tomorrow, please confirm it. And then they can easily click on the confirm. It comes back to us. And then after that, we can do something else to process that confirmation, send a thank you back, but also present what are called quick actions. And these can be more than just the 3 that are listed here. But you can have it so that the user can just add the appointment to their calendar, or perhaps a map. They can click the map to see where you're located and easily get directions, or make a phone call. Another action that is not included in this example is to share the location. So the user could actually share the location with you, and you would get a clickable link showing the location, and you can process it however you want to process it there. So a few very quick examples showing how much richer the experience is using RCS versus SMS and MMS, which none of these things are really possible doing that. So, as I mentioned, I want to mention again, the options, this quick replies and the quick actions, they are limited to 11 suggestions, but that should be, more than enough to handle that. Let's see, that's all that we have for the demo. I think we wanted to go into a quick Q&A, and then I know we have some questions in the chat that I did not get a chance to answer, and I can try to run through those right now.
We did have a few that kind of came in as we were talking. So just for the recording purposes and those that are going to be watching this later, I'm just going to read some of the ones from further up. So one person asked, is this technology supported by all smartphones?
That's hard to answer. Yes, technically yes. If it supports iOS 18, then RCS will be supported if it's an iPhone. If it's an Android, the answer is typically yes, though there are so many different types of Android manufacturers out there, and there's a lot of small regional carriers. So the catch is both have to kind of be supported of it. That it's hard to say that yes, it's supported by all, but it is supported by the vast majority. So there is that, but all not necessarily 100% if we're gonna be all encompassing.
Does that include, I'm going to expand on that. Does it include smart devices, right? So tablets, What if you're connected to your computer? Like, I mean, are we talking across all devices, or is this going to be specific to phones?
It's it's specific to phones in that it does um, for the end user yourself. So if we're looking at it from the end user perspective, not the organization sending the RBMs, but for the end user does have to have a mobile service with a carrier. So your RCS is registered to your phone number that you do have. Now, can you receive RCS on your tablet or your computer? The answer is also yes, but it's working in conjunction with your phone itself. So I have an iPhone, I have a MacBook. My iMessage or my Messages app on my MacBook does show RCS messages that I receive on my iPhone, but it's using my phone to actually use the service. I don't know if that makes
Okay, so it's
sense.
going to be dependent on the phone and how that device is connected to the phone.
Yes.
Okay. We had another one that was, what is the difference that allows different delivery receipts to be better than SMS?
So what we have seen is delivery receipts with SMS and MMS are not very consistent. Sometimes we get them, sometimes you don't get them. Sometimes they are when the message is delivered to the actual handset. Sometimes they're when the message is delivered to the carrier, and you don't really know if it made it to the handset itself or not. There's just not a lot of consistency with that. But with the way RCS works, which is more of an over the top type of service, it's much more consistent, and you know it's always coming from the handset receiving the message itself.
We're just peppering them in at you today. There was another question about whether it's going to work in Canada the same as it's going to work in the US.
Yes, it has not been, as far as I know, it has not been rolled out to Canadian. All right, so again, if we're looking at from the iPhone perspective, we have to say this: it has not been rolled out to Canadian carriers yet, but Canada is on the list of places that will be supporting it. Likely sometime next year is what we'll see. So once US mobile operators start to roll it out and adopt it, it'll probably start to go through Canada as well.
Jason had asked what happens if you send an RCS message to a device that does not support it. I believe that it will just default to SMS, correct?
Um, yeah, so that's something that would happen within your messaging aggregator. So us, for instance, you can utilize a service that will fall back to SMS or MMS. There are some catches with that. So, let's start with Canada, for instance. No campaign registrations. TCR campaign registration is not a thing. It's very easy to have that fall back. But within the US, if you want that to happen, then you're also going to have to make sure you register a brand and a campaign, and you go through all of that process as well, just to make sure you can deliver on both of those channels. It is possible to send an RCS and just have it go and then fail and not send, or also to have some sort of fallback mechanism in place. What you also have to remember is the RCS messages are much more rich in features than what you would see otherwise. And so you have to take that into account. If you're sending options or something for the user to pick, how do you want to present that within the MMS message, and how you want to handle that, and what you want that customer experience to be like. It's a lot to think about with it, but you should have it, fall back in some form or way.
So you'd want, if you're currently looking for somebody to send out these RCS messages or your SMS messages, that's a very important question you will want to ask. in your research
Yeah.
process, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Let's see. We have another one to just maybe explain what an agent is in the context of RBM.
So if you're familiar with 10DLC messaging within the US, you can think of an agent as both the brand and the campaign kind of mashed together. So it's kind of what is allowing you to send an RCS business message into the ecosystem and out to your end user. It's both giving you approval to do that, but it's also giving you that verified brand that you can use to present to the end user. So it's shown a few different times within the slides where you can see the logo and the name and all of that. And the agent itself has all of that information, and that's what gets pushed to the mobile operators and Google and Apple and everyone so that they know what to present to the end user. If that doesn't answer, let me know. I wasn't sure how to go about that.
The next one was which RCS protocols / services are going to be supported? MSRP, message store, group chat, XCAP.
Yeah, so I assume you mean from the customer perspective. So you sign up with SignalWire, you have a space, and you want to send RCS. These are different protocols that can be used to do it. However, our customers will be utilizing our messaging APIs and SDKs, which are HTTP based instead, and not based on some of those other protocols. There's a lot of others you could use, but ours will just use our standard set of APIs for that.
Okay. Is somebody asked about documentation? If we have any yet, API documentation, message format, all of that stuff.
Not at the moment. A lot of this is still being finalized with mobile operators and aggregators and everything, because it's still so quickly evolving within the US. Nothing is necessarily set in stone, but if you fill out the interest form, that's one of those things that we'll make sure to keep everyone up to date with.
Can we talk a little bit more about the encryption? So we've had a couple of questions,
Mhm.
just to kind of, is it HIPAA compliant? All of that. So if we can specify just a little bit. I know some of that info is obviously still evolving.
Yeah, so if you Google is RCS end-to-end encrypted, you'll get a response that says yes. But what we have to remember is that there's a difference between RCS and RBM, which is the business side of it. And so if we look at it as RCS, so I'm sending a message to my friend who is an Android user, and it's being sent through RCS. Is that encrypted? Yes, that's end-to-end encrypted. But if we look at it from the RBM perspective, it is not encrypted. And the reason for that is it's using a store and forward type of mechanism to relay the message to the end user. And so there's not really an ideal way to end encrypt that message right now. You know, to say it's never going to happen, it would take a lot, possible, but at the moment, RBM or RCS business messaging is not end-to-end encrypted. And because it's not end-to-end encrypted, it also can't be HIPAA compliant.
Do we anticipate at some point that it will be?
I mean, we could speculate that yes, but we don't. there's no current indication that it would be. So you should take care on protecting, some private information that you might send along, or you might send to end users. Whether or not your end users want to send back is different.
And then for our demo that we did today, we had some questions. What is the demo architecture? actual mobile handset on one side. Oh, yes. So yes, it was somebody's actual phone. Here from our carrier ops department, Kat. Thank you, Kat, for your assistance. So it was actually Kat's phone that we were sending the messages to. So that was all live. And then they said how RCS messages are delivered to the server. So do we have any more specifics we can go into on that architecture?
How are RCS? Can you maybe elaborate on that? Whoever asked that question.
Was it Oleg?
They're also the ones that asked the good protocol question.
Some really good questions. You guys came
Yes.
prepared.
It did come prepared. Uh,
Does RCS require TCR in the campaign registry? That's a good question.
That's a good question.
Myself asked this question.
Yeah, that's a good question. No, at the moment, no. It does appear that TCR is attempting to insert themselves into that mix. It's possible that they see SMS and MMS, going by the wayside as people move to RCS, and they're going to have to do something with it. But at the moment, there's no indication that TCR is going to handle agent registrations themselves. Right now, that's being handled by the aggregator, mobile operators, and Google's. It's similar-ish to how short code registrations are handled and approved. That will get streamlined at some point. And it's likely it'll be centralized a little bit, but right now it's not happening. And I've actually asked quite a few people in the industry their thoughts on the TCR thing, and no one seems to think that TCR is going to take it over. So it could be some positive stuff with that.
So that begs the question, if you are using RCS and then you want it to default to SMS, if it can't deliver RCS, will you have to have, in theory, two campaigns, one with TCR and one with RCS?
Yeah, within the US, yes, you will.
Okay.
So outside the US, it's a little bit different, and it'll just depend on the country.
Yeah. So as you're budgeting out and researching this more, keep in mind that that would require, additional costs on at least the TCR side. I'm not sure. Do we know anything about the exact fees that are going to be entailed with RCS and RBM?
That is also still being worked on. Agreements are still being negotiated with the mobile operators to figure all that out. You might also be wondering about carrier fees and how those will look. Same thing there. It's all being negotiated with the mobile operators at the moment to try and figure that out. At the moment, no registration fees for the agents with us. So another reason to get them registered right now. I know there are some RCS providers that do charge agent registration fees. At the moment, we are not. But that could change. Like we talked about before, if a central agency of some sort does take over the agent registration process, it's possible that they might start charging those fees similar to how TCR does, but at the moment, no.
Another reason, I just put it in the chat as a refresher, another reason to fill out the interest form. So that way, as we learn that information, we can pass it along to you. Susan asked, do you think companies could train their lists based on the delivery receipt from RCS? That way they can streamline which messages get sent to which channel. So SMS versus RCS.
Yeah, it's certainly possible to do that. Also, what is coming out along with this will be ways to do lookups on a number and see where you could possibly send that message to and direct them that way instead. So, good question, though.
Let's see. How does your OPT compliance work for your campaigns? Excuse me. The requirements seem so specific, especially for smaller businesses without a solid web presence.
So it's similar. I'm assuming you're referring to maybe opt-in compliance on that one.
Oh, it is
Um,
OPT opt. Okay.
when I first read it, I thought they flipped characters in that one-time passwords, but I figured it
It's been a
out.
long day.
Detective work. Yeah, so I'm assuming opt-in compliance, and right now the requirements appear to be similar to 10 DLC. So again, if we're looking at just the US opt-in compliance and requirements, it's similar to 10 DLC. Various countries have it a little differently, and each mobile operator in those countries might be a little different. But if we're going to focus on the US, the opt-in compliance currently is similar to 10 DLC, which I know Google itself has one set of opt-in requirements, but the mobile operators are trying to just be a little bit more consistent with the 10 DLC side of things.
And Phil did ask a good question. Are there any current restrictions for RCS as far as what's going to be allowed for content? So obviously with SMS, we have a whole list of things that are restricted, that you can't send information on. Do we have any information on if RCS is going to do the same thing?
Yes. And I see that you're asking specifically about political campaigns as well. So, yes. So there's two different kind of sets of restrictions on this at the moment. And this is part of what will get negotiated and figured out. But you have Google's set of restrictions and allowed content, but then you also have what is allowed content by the mobile operators. And so, for example, mobile operators specifically say no third-party lenders allowed on 10 DLC messaging campaigns. But Google doesn't specifically say anything about it for RCS. But from what we're hearing is they're going to be applying those same 10 DLC restrictions to the RCS as well, even though Google doesn't necessarily outright say it. But what you have to remember is you have to have your agent accepted by Google as well. And the reason for this is some providers will use Google for their messaging. Some providers just use RCS within their own environment. There's two different ways to do it. That gets a little bit more complex, but you have to have it accepted by Google as well. And so looking at it from the political side of things, so 10 DLC, you can register political campaigns and do messaging that way. But Google has stricter limitations on political messaging, and where it might be more difficult to get those registered. And we can help work through those. If you have questions about your specific work case, it might be best to reach out to us directly, and we can talk through it and figure out how that will work best for you.
Where should people reach out to send questions like that?
They can reach out to support.
I'm putting you on the spot.
You are putting me on the spot. So the interest forum is one way to do it, but you could also reach out to our support staff and ask questions, and they'll direct it to myself. We could also reach out to support. That's probably a good way to go.
We have the support
And
portal. So if you're
yeah,
new and you haven't created an account yet and you plan to, within your dashboard in the top right-hand corner, there's a little help icon. within there, there's a support portal. So you can email support@signalwire.com. You can also submit a ticket, and that's the best way to do it just because it can be tracked that way a little bit easier. And then Steve's team will get those assigned to him and we'll get them answered. So we are almost at time. We have one more question, and I missed Donald's question earlier, so I want to make sure we get it in. He asked, many businesses are doing messaging, need P2P or C2C support as well. For example, MySudo, Hushed, and Firefox Relay all provide phone numbers that should act like any other mobile number. What is SignalWire's roadmap for that, since it would be great to compete with those apps?
Yeah, so a good question. They should work like any other mobile number is correct, and the should is emphasized in that because not always will they, and the reason is sometimes they're seen as not actual mobile numbers, and you might run into issues with like one-time passwords and those kinds of things on companies that are filtering them out because they're not showing as actual mobile numbers. And as far as the RCS landscape goes, that's still kind of being navigated. And I haven't really seen much talk about being able to offer that from a P2P perspective itself, just because it's not necessarily designed for that. And you have to have a number working with the mobile operators. Not to say it won't happen or can't happen, but at the moment there's no real focus on making that happen.
Perfect. Okay. Donaldson, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. It's exactly through. I mean, we did it exact. It's like we planned it. Thank you everybody for coming. I hope we answered a majority of questions. I will reiterate again, like we have many times, stay up to date with us, fill out that form so that we can send you all the updates as we get them. We plan on continuing the communication with RCS. So join the community so you can stay up to date when we do our next joint venture, when we continue talking about it, sending updates, all of that stuff. So thank you again for joining us. It's been great to hang out with you for the last hour. If you need to contact us for anything, and that was support@signalwire.com, or create an account and submit that through the help portal or the support portal. And we'll see you next time. It was great to see you all. Thanks.